I hope people take this to heart. It's really important to think about the future in your present. Like, even if you journal, like I journal every single day what I'm grateful for and then my future goals, because it helps make them a reality, even though they sound crazy. And I could tell you a million stories of stuff I wrote down or on my vision board that like I achieved. And it's so crazy because your subconscious starts working on it. So as I was and this is before, when I was 23, I didn't listen to Tony Robbins or any of that stuff at all. I didn't understand it. But naturally, I'm an optimist. So I'd be like scrubbing a toilet, and I wouldn't be like scrubbing a toilet, oh, this sucks. It would be like, I'm scrubbing this toilet to a means to an end. I know I'm going to have a bunch of team members. I'm going to have a manager. I'm not going to have to show up to the office in the future. But until then, this is what it's going to take to get there.
Hello and welcome to Small Business Pivots. I'm your host, Michael Morrison, a small business coach who helps guide small businesses from struggle to success. Go to michaeldmorrison.com to learn more. On our podcast, we explore the pivots that small business owners have made to build successful businesses doing $1 million and more in annual revenue. Let's get to our guest now. Christine McDannell is a serial entrepreneur, author, and speaker. She is the founder and principal business intermediary of the Magnolia Firm, an M&A, also known as merger and acquisition brokerage firm, helping digital business owners achieve the perfect exit. The Magnolia Firm specializes in helping owners achieve a 100% success rate for exits, with most closings coming in at either full asking or over asking price. After founding, growing, acquiring, and selling 20 plus of her own businesses across several verticals, including cleaning, wellness, beauty, technology, exotic cars, and real estate, Christine realized that there was a formula behind the perfect business sale and now dedicates her full-time attention on helping others do the same. She is passionate about all things business, especially helping entrepreneurs step into the next phase of life with their dream business exit. Let's get to our guest and learn the pivots she has made to build and sell successful businesses. All right, welcome to another Small Business Pivots. Today we have a special guest. Christine, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing fantastic. What part of this world are you coming to us from?
Sunny San Diego.
San Diego. What's your favorite thing to do there in San Diego?
I would suggest Coronado Island without a doubt.
Oh, wow. What are some of the amazing things that go on there for those of us that have never been there but want to come there?
Yes. So it's about a 10-minute drive for me. So I actually go there and I feel like I'm on a vacation every time. I've lived in San Diego for 20 years. And so I would say, walking the whole island, it's about an hour and a half if you want to walk around it. Coronado Bridge is there, which is gorgeous. Hotel Del, you definitely want to stop it. It's over 100 years old and it's right on the water. You can have a drink on the patio and enjoy the hotel, even if you're not staying there. And then down the street is a naval base, which you'll see some pretty cool like fighter pilots landing pretty close by. And so, yeah, highly recommend Coronado Island.
Sounds amazing. Well, I'll definitely have to get there as well as our listeners. So have you always lived there in California?
I lived half my life. I lived in LA, or an hour north of Los Angeles. I grew up in LA County, and then I've been in San Diego for 20 years now.
Okay, because we know the outside world, we know a lot of business breeds and evolves there in California, and you're right there in the mix of that. So let's talk about small business, because that's who listens to our show, or small business owners who sometimes can't even fathom making it past the week. And a lot of them are just trying to hit the $1 million mark or more, or just be successful. Sometimes it's not even a dollar amount. It's just getting past the week and feeling a little more stable in their business. And I know that you've owned lots of businesses. So let's kind of start real quick with your upbringing, because I know with small business owners, we have a lot of challenges sometimes, trials, tribulations, mindset issues, maybe a rough childhood. Were there anything like that in your childhood that maybe could have set you back that didn't?
I don't even think my dad set such a great example. I mean, he was blue collar, started his HVAC company when I was young. But he set the tone of like a crazy work ethic. Wow. Just naturally. He loved working. He'd be out the door at 7 a.m. every single day. He even started his HVAC company while still working, corporate, and they would start the company at night and he worked on the weekends. And then he had just the company for a long time. And even on the weekends, he'd be like wrenching on the cars and like always doing stuff, but never, ever missed a day of work ever. And always started before 7 a.m. every single day. And then at age 11, I started like being a secretary, and that was fun. So I'm lucky in a sense of, that was kind of discipline that I was able to model, because it was so like, hard work was like, normal to me, right? Because I watched him do it. So yeah, I'm lucky, very lucky in that sense.
Well, today you get to be our role model, just like your dad was to you. So, what got you did you go to college?
I did not.
You did
When
not?
I was 16, I told my
Okay.
dad, because my parents separated at 14, I stayed with my dad and he raised me. And we were always super close. And I told him at age 16, and I was doing really well in high school. I said, save your money, Dad. I'm going to be successful without going to college. And I was like so sure myself when I said that sentence. And again, like he didn't have the money to put, I mean, he would have went in so much debt, right, for me to go. And honestly, I probably would have partied away anyways. And then at that age, at 17, I already had like a $40,000 a year job coming right out of into property management, I was still in high school at 17, I graduated. So I went right into that. So it's like, if you're making that much, and I loved real estate and I love property management, it didn't make any sense for me to go to college.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know a lot of business owners did not end up going to college, which is fine. College is good for some, and others it's not. So what inspired you? What got you motivated to start your first business? Obviously, you had a role model, but what kind of got you to push that button and say, I'm doing it now. Now is the time.
Yeah, and I will mention one last thing on college. I've
Yeah.
had multiple friends that went and got their MBA. They were very arrogant. They kind of looked down on me for not going to college, owning a cleaning company, which I know is not sexy, when I was 23. And they ran a business into the ground within 2 years flat, like
Wow.
multiple, because you don't learn, I mean, you don't own business. Like the professors have never owned a business. So they're teaching you stuff that is not relevant. And then
Yeah.
you get this false sense of, confidence, because you're like, oh, I have my MBA and I'm going to kill it in business. I've watched multiple, and some of the most hustlers, the most successful businesses I own that are friends of mine did not go to college, right?
Yeah.
They've been hustling their whole life, even as kids. And that was me. So as a kid, I was like having a little lemonade or snow cone stand, not even lemonade, and selling candy bars out of my backpack. So I've always had the entrepreneurial mindset. But like I said, I went into real estate first for 5 or 6 years. And then when I was 23, launched a cleaning company. And I started with $300 because I had a ton of debt, and I quit my job on the spot. So I didn't have income anymore. And then I just had a bartend at night to pay the bills on top of cleaning houses every day for a year and a half. So yeah, that's where I started.
Did you have any particular target, or you just went full in, anybody that wants their house cleaned, or did you have some kind of clarity going into that?
Yeah, no, great question. And I never forget, I was working in real estate. I was an assistant to a top producer here in San Diego who was a nightmare boss. And in hindsight, I'm so glad, because now I'm like a really great boss, because I'm like, oh my God, it was like horrific. On my first day, people were pulling me into the office saying, oh my God, you're working for Stacy. Like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I quickly learned what that meant. So I was sitting downtown San Diego, 2003. That's when Petco Park, our baseball stadium, was being built. It's when all these high rises, these high end condominiums were being built. And I was sitting there in my car waiting on her. And I had kind of a newspaper, and I saw a cleaning company for sale. And that didn't pan out. I couldn't buy it. But I just was like, oh my God, who's going to clean all these condos? And that was, so I was only downtown, smartest move. I would, like, over time, I would transport, like, once I built up the team, I would be driving the team around in a van and dropping them off, and they could clean multiple condos in one building. So there's no wasted drive time. Like I said, we were carpooling because parking was hard. Yeah, and I just dropped the teams off and their supplies, and they would clean. So that was a smart move. Over time, I acquired another cleaning company that did the whole county. So we grabbed market share really quickly. And so yeah, that's Cleanology. That was fun. I had it for like 5 or 6 years before I exited.
That information you just shared is so important for startups. And that's what you did, was you focused on one area rather than trying to be Christine, the world needs to know me, everybody. You just like, I'm going to take this one little section and dominate.
Oh, I did. I was a mafia of downtown. I kid you not. I had these little flyers that I still have a flyer. I saved it to this day. It's on my LinkedIn page if everyone wants to see it. And it was Christine's cleaning service. And then I'm like, okay, I can't be Christine the cleaner all the time. So I changed it to Cleanology within like the first year. And I put flyers under the doors of all the condos. And then I would see a flyer or door hanger for another cleaning company. And I would call them up and say, hey, this is like, look, I was nice about it. And it worked. I was like, look, like I'm only doing downtown. I will literally refer you because we get so many calls from all of San Diego. I will literally send them all to you. Just please don't advertise downtown anymore. And they would do it. And the irony was I acquired that company, you know, a couple of years later. So I got all the clients back anyways, but it was just funny. And again, I was friends with all my competitors. Like it was fine, but it was just so funny how I was like, I was friends with all the concierge. I built relationships. I'd give them gift cards to Nordstrom's or whatever, because they were referring me clients inside these luxury buildings. So it just worked really, really well. It was a good time. I mean, but people listening can relate. I was, you know, it's hard to make payroll on Fridays. And I was driving this beat up Aerostar van that I swear when I would drive, because then we started doing Coronado because it was close by. When I would drive over that bridge, I would literally shake and pray that van would not break on the bridge. Like, I swear to God.
You didn't want to be that person.
Yeah. I mean, even like driving my sports car across it, I like will never forget that day. Like those days like stick with me. Like, I'm like, oh my God. I mean, thank God we never broke down, but yeah.
Well, I know a lot of small business owners that listen are actually still going through that van situation. What were some of the things, the mindset that just kept you going? Like, because I know a lot of people, they're just like, is it ever going to get better? I might as well just give up and get a job. What were some of those things that you just plow through from your work ethic from your dad, or what was that?
No, Michael, it's even a step above that. And I hope people take this to heart. It's really important to think about the future in your present. Like, even if you journal, like I journal every single day what I'm grateful for, and then my future goals, because it helps make them a reality, even though they sound crazy. And I could tell you a million stories of stuff I wrote down or on my vision board that like I achieved. And it's so crazy because your subconscious starts working on it. So as I was clean, and this is before, when I was 23, I didn't listen to Tony Robbins or any of that stuff at all. I didn't understand it. But naturally I'm an optimist. So I'd be like scrubbing a toilet, and I wouldn't be like scrubbing a toilet. Oh, this sucks. It would be like, I'm scrubbing this toilet to a means to an end. I know I'm going to have a bunch of team members. I'm going to have a manager. I'm not going to have to show up to the office in the future. But until then, this is what it's going to take to get there. So that just came naturally to me. So that was huge. And just have a great team. We had a really great team. All my companies, I have amazing teams. They're fun to work with. I think that's important. And stuff's going to happen. Like lawsuits are going to happen. You just have to know it's not if or when the lawsuits. I went a lot of years without, but I've had 3 total in 20 years, which isn't too bad considering how many employees I always had about 35 to 38 employees at most of the companies I had. Nowadays, only a few, because you got tech now and you could scale quicker. So back in the days, it's funny. It used to be like, how many employees? It wouldn't be like how much revenue you're making. It would be like, how many employees do you have? And that would, remember, like that would be like how big
that was
your
the measuring stick of how well you're doing.
Isn't that funny? And now it's the opposite. It's like, oh my God, you have 20 employees like in a tech company. What the heck? And you're only making, $1 million a year. Like that's the biggest headache in the world. So yeah, those were the good days. And then let me speak to this $1 million number.
Yes.
So I was young, I'm in my 20s, and it's like, all I cared about was hitting 1 million in revenue. That's all I freaking cared about. That's what I drove up to, blah, blah, blah. It was like this magic number. It kind of still is for a lot of like service-based businesses, obviously. But I, one day, I was lucky enough to have a bookkeeper. I still have the same bookkeeper all these years later, like 15 years. And she prints me P&L, and I look, and at the bottom, it was 0. And I'm like, and by then we were like 600K already. And I'm like, what the heck? She's like, yeah, you're spending, you had 0, like you're so busy, you're not looking at the profit. and you're not paying attention. I'm like, this is a freaking charity. Like everybody's making money except me.
Yeah.
This is just retarded. So then immediately I start focusing on the profit. And again, in the beginning, when you're scaling, of course, like you're not going to have profit because you're reinvesting in the business and you're scaling quickly. I get it. That's the first couple of years. But after that, there just has to be this focus. And I'm sure we'll get into it. Now I help people sell their companies, and that's the number everybody cares about.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Margins are so critical. So is not spending money that you don't have, where I know a lot of business owners will get started and they get a little comfortable with some money in the bank and they'll go buy a nice car, maybe some luxury toys, if you will, boats or whatever. And so what you're saying is just bootstrap and go. And we've only been talking for probably less than 10 minutes here, and you're already full of nuggets. So I want to keep going because you've owned multiple businesses. Kind of walk us through maybe some pivots you learned along the way with some of those businesses.
Yeah. Wow. There's probably so many. Yeah. I've owned like over 20 companies total. 10 were startups. The rest I just acquired and folded in. I would say a pivot was at the wellness spa. We were doing green juice. And this is back 2012, 2013, when green juice, health and wellness wasn't like a trend yet. Not even here in San Diego. So everybody that walked in the door, maybe 9 out of 10 didn't ever have green juice, which is a vegetable-based juice and it's healthy, but nobody knew what it was. And we were outsourcing it. So it'd be delivered, which is super convenient. And so we were doing it that way. And then I'm like, well, why don't we just create our own juice brand? And why don't we make a cute like food truck, but let's put it in the back. So it's kind of like a separate business. And that might be cool. It's like a drive up one.
Yeah.
And so that did not work very well. It got broken into twice. It just was like, oh, this isn't making sense. Why don't we start selling it inside the spa again? But now it's our own brand and it's kind of a separate entity, but it's inside the spa. So that was a great pivot, right? And we did really well. The margins were great on it. And then I sold the like food truck juice bar thing. That was one pivot. A pivot for that spa at the very last minute. We had already built out, we're about to open the doors, and a girlfriend of mine was in LA and she's like, you should put infrared saunas in the spa. And I'm like, what are those? So I did research and we put one in, and the margins on that were better than anything, right?
Wow.
It's like, there's no service person, there's no, massage therapist, there's nobody. You're literally the front desk person is taking them back, putting them in there. Electricity, I believe, was included in that building. So yeah, it was like the bet, $35 for a 40-minute session. So so we put more and more and more saunas. Like by the end of the day, between the two locations, I think 4 or 5, maybe we had 7 infrared saunas running at all times.
With no utility bill.
Yeah. And then
That's
it was
amazing.
a lead. Yeah. And then we used Groupon as a lead gen. So we combined the green juice. You could come in for green juice and infrared sauna treatment. It was like $35 or something on Groupon. Groupon was our number 1 or number 2 source of business. I've made over $1 million, if not more, on people coming in from Groupon because we upsell on memberships, et cetera. But I was making $5 profit for each person coming in. Like that's the best cost to acquire a customer ever. So, and let me speak to that real quick too. When you said people go buy fancy cars and all that stuff, I always waited until usually I exit a company. I bought my dream car. I will wait. I don't want to do stupid stuff during, because let me tell you the reason, and let's do the math.
Yes.
So I knew every, the cost to acquire a company, or every dollar I would put in to marketing, I would get a $5 return, like every single dollar. That's what we were standing at the spa. So every time I go to buy something, if it was like a $10 item, I knew this thing's cost me $50. It was $100 thing. Oh my God, this thing is genuinely $500, because I could take that same money and put it into more marketing. It was like a hose. I could just crank stuff in and turn it on, turn it off. So people listening, I think that's a super important. I know sometimes it's difficult to calculate it. I'm always happy to help. If you want to hit me on LinkedIn, I geek out on this stuff. But like with all your marketing, like how much you're investing, how much money are you getting in from there? That's your cost to acquire a client.
Oh, fantastic advice. I always remind early stage business owners, the purpose of any business is to turn cash into more cash.
Yeah.
So that kind of aligns with exactly what you're saying. Always be observant of what that dollar that you're spending is costing you or what it's going to earn you back versus buying all the toys and the cars and things like that. You're listening to Small Business Pivots, a podcast created for small business owners who are ready to take their business to the next level. If you need help growing your business, go to michaeldmorrison.com. And don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast. Let's get back to our guest. So you were probably like most business owners where you may have felt at the end of your rope, if you will, out of bandwidth. I know a lot of business owners come to us and say, this information that you're giving us is great, but I don't have another minute in the day. Did you ever have those kind of minutes or days? And then if you did, what were some of those things that you overcame?
Yeah, I think it's important. I think luckily most of us already know this as entrepreneurs. You're never going to finish that to-do list. That is not
Thank
even,
you.
yeah. I mean, that's humanly impossible. I've never seen people be able to really pull that off. What you need to be good is prioritizing, right? And being efficient. Okay, not wasting your time. So I do something really funny forgot. My mentor taught me this, God, probably 12 years at least. I take a legal notepad and I write what I'm working on every minute of the day. So I've done it even if I'm in a Starbucks, I'll grab a napkin and do it. It's such a habit. I have to do it every single day. So I put the date on the top and I put like three priority things that I should knock out that day. Try not to put more. It's overwhelming. And again, maybe I don't do them and then I carry them to the next day. But literally like today, I'll be like 8 a.m. team meeting. And then I leave the next, and then once we're done with the team meeting, I'll put 8:30 and then 8:30 to 9. Oh, again, I don't write the next thing I don't write the time range until I'm done with the action. So 8:30 emails. Okay. So every time I shift gears, I'm like, oh, 8:30, podcast, 9:30. So it's crazy. It's not pretty. I'm very kinesthetic. When you're writing it, you're going to write Facebook, like you're goofing around on Facebook. Like, and then it brings you to your attention. Oh my God, I just spent 45 minutes on Facebook, and again, this back in the day, but I just brought so much awareness. You could take it to the next level. I haven't done this in a while. You could, at the end of the day, you can circle in green marker, highlight all your revenue generating things you worked on, which is like next level. I'm a salesperson marketer. Like all I care about is sales, 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 sales. So I need to make sure the bulk of my day is has to do with biz dev. Like, again, that's not possible managing team members and all that. So it's not like I can't do that for 8 hours straight. But yeah, I mean, even a podcast is considered marketing right now. Mm-hmm. So those are my tips and tricks on that to-do list and just maximizing every minute of the day. And I used to work, I've worked upwards of 80 to 90 hours a week. When I had my tech company a couple of years ago, it was insane, 7 days a week. I don't know if it was it was manageable because I did it. And kind of at that startup phase, you almost have no choice. But now I'm fortunate enough to maybe clock like 20 to 30 hours a week. Oh, wow. So it's funny, I make more money than ever, but I work less. But again, that's with time. And I think brand new entrepreneurs are trying to do that. And you never saw the beginning of all these years of me working insane hours to get here. You can't start here. I've never seen it successful. Even with the cleaning company, my neighbor had a film marketing company. He would roll in again. I'm there at 6 a.m. I was there 6 to 7, probably 13 hours a day in the beginning of my cleaning company. His office, he rolls in at 11, he rolls out at 4. And in my head, I'm like, what is going on? I was like in my own tunnel of I thought all business owners work as sanely as I did. I just was in my own little world. Then I start seeing that. And then he failed. He shut the business down. And I was not surprised because I'm like, it was not working. Like you have to work on a startup. And I know there's this anti-hustle culture going on right now. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is going, it's just not that easy, but social media makes it so easy. Or somebody selling a course on how to be successful in business overnight.
Yeah. Probably don't want to get me started on those courses because most of them are false.
Yes.
It's the hard work. It's the hours. Very few people hit the lottery on their first. I know some people do, but most of us don't. We work hard. Even like yourself, even when you start a new business, even though you've been in business, you still have to hustle at the beginning of each new venture because there's new things to learn. There's new challenges. And what I love about your system that you were talking about, your time management, it's also accountability. Like you can look back at each day and go, did I do anything productive today that's going to turn cash into more cash revenue wise? I love that. So most people can't even manage one company. How do you manage multiple companies?
So startup world, and I only did it once and I learned my lesson. So when you're in a startup, do not get distracted with anything. You know, I always had a million business ideas. So one time I did 2 startups at the same time, and that was a horrible idea because you have to be so all in on one. What I would do is dovetail that. I mean, again, if I'm acquiring another spa, I'm folding it in. That's super easy for me. But if I'm starting a brand new venture, I would dovetail it against the last one. So I'm in the one, maybe I'm 5 years in, 4 years in, maybe even 3. And I've got a team and I've got managers and they really don't need me that much. And then I'm like bored. So I'm either going to sell it or I'm going to dovetail a brand new venture on top of it and run them simultaneously. That worked really well for me and kept me entertained. And then I had one business for 10 years, Adopt a Christmas Tree, which was a lot of fun. We were adopting out living Christmas trees during the holidays and singing Dancing Elves would deliver them here in San Diego. And I had that one for 10 years, longer than any business. And that was only during the holidays. But then it did become hard on top of my spa. I had no holidays. I worked, from November to beginning of January nonstop. So then I finally was like, okay, I'm not as passionate about it anymore.
Yeah. So there's this comment or quote of working in the business, working on the business. You've already mentioned that starting up, you are working in the business, hustling as many hours as it takes. What, in your experience, when do you feel like you can start working on the business in each of your business experiences? Is there a transition or you just kind of know? Because I know a lot of business owners ask me that, like, what's the difference and how do I know when I can do both?
Ooh, great question. So every single business, I actually start at the bottom and work up. So like I said, I was cleaning, worked all the way, then I was in the office dispatching, and then I got a manager. So then I was just doing the marketing and the payroll. So I kind of like work myself out of the job. Each step's very uncomfortable. It's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to be a stretch. Even you're like scared because you're like, oh my God, can I afford a manager? And then it just like naturally will work out. They're not going to be as good as me. That was my situation. I was micromanaging my poor manager back in the day at Clean All. The first manager, I feel so bad. I was micromanaging like crazy. Michael Gerber, like I know everybody talks about the E-Myth. Michael Gerber's book was like, I was technician cleaning, get the heck out of that. So that book changed me. And then 4-Hour Work Week, when it first came out, changed everything for me. It was like, you can't be the person doing everything. You need to be able to travel and make sure your business still runs. And so, I traveled to Thailand when I was 25. I'm like, I'm leaving the country. And my business, so it was only 2 or 3 years in. And the business ran better without me. Like every time I leave, like even the spa, they had their bit, and it kind of hurt my feelings. I went to Europe for an entire month, probably 4 years into the spa. Again, I had 3 managers in place, like 30 something employees, but I was the salesperson, like push everybody in there to sell, massive stretch goals. And they broke the record in the company and broke the $100,000 a month, which is like another like rad number that every business owner is trying to hit, without me. And I actually got sad. I was like, oh my God, they did it without me. It like ran better without me. My friend in Europe was like, that's what every business owner dreams of. I was like, no, I'm bored. And then I put it up for sale. I think that same with the spa, like every single business, I started from the very, very beginning. So I was the receptionist, like for the first 6 months of the spa, I was front desk. I was setting up the computer system. I was speaking with clients. I was customer service again, answering phones. So, and then again, it's bootstrapped. So I can only do it once I could afford a manager, which again was a stretch and very uncomfortable. Like, oh my gosh. And then, you just grow and grow over time and you make less mistakes. I mean, the businesses I started after the exits, I'd have all this cash and then I burned all this cash. I did a social media company that I put 60K into. I mean, really, you only need a laptop. Like in hindsight, I'm like, what did I spend the $60,000? in a year. But again, I had it. So it's just like, you make more mistakes, but when you're
Yes.
bootstrapping, you cannot make a mistake. Like you have
Oh,
to
that's
scrape and yeah.
that is so important to know. I know business owners that'll go get a business loan to start their business, and I'm like, no, start with what, because a business loan gives you that freedom to unwisely spend, right? What you were kind of saying, you blew through 60,000 only because you had it. And so you're, oh, this is so good. You mentioned team was kind of a important part. We have some business owners that come to us. What about any advice you have for business owners? They're like, I'd love to work on my business. I've got 9 employees, but I don't have anybody I can count on. I don't have the right team, nor can I find the right team. Were you lucky just finding the right people, having them come on, or was that hard work as well?
My favorite saying, and I've learned the lesson the hard way. I've learned so
Yeah.
many lessons,
Yeah.
is hire slow and fire fast.
Okay.
And I've told this story on other podcasts. Like the hire slow, I'm good about. You guys have got to find, you cannot settle on team. And especially those first couple hires, because that literally sets the foundation for the rest of your company. We always hire A players, always, 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 and just treat them like gold. Anytime any of my team members ever wanted a day off, they get it. Always. Even like I hired like a massage therapist, and she kept quitting jobs, and I was asking her, and she's like, well, I love to travel, so I have to quit the spa to go travel for a couple months,
Mm.
and then I just go get a new job. I'm like, look, Angela, I will, like, just tell me in advance that you want to go travel for a month and you get your job back. Like, just tell me in advance, like you could come back anytime, like don't even worry about it. I'm big on freedom. I think employees should have freedom. And so the bad story was back at the cleaning company again. So luckily I learned my lessons in my 20s, and I'll shorten the story. I've told it before in a few podcasts, is that there was like one poison apple. I didn't want to fire. I was putting it off. I put off, she had a bad attitude. She started poisoning the team. I'm like, I need to fire her. I waited 3 months. By then she convinced it was like 12, all 12 on a Friday morning, our busiest day of the week, because that was planned. They stood in front of me. I'll never forget it. They said, all of us want a raise. And I just stood there, or we're quitting. I'm like, okay, one by one. And thank God I thought of this. One by one, you're going to come in my office. You're going to sign a piece of paper that says you're never going to work here again. Because I needed to like separate them from the herd. Because you could tell some of them were like, low self-esteem. They're just kind of going along with it.
With the crowd, yeah.
Yeah, with the crowd. It's like this herd mentality. I'm not going to get bullied around. One by one, like, hey, you've been here for years, Maria, are you sure? And then they're, oh, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to stay. And then the next one was like, well, what did Maria say? I'm like, it doesn't matter what Maria said.
Yeah.
Like, tell me. So 7 out of the 12, yeah, 5 stuck, 7 left. All of them came back trying to get their jobs back within weeks or months. And I said no. And those original 5 were like, wow, like Christine like kept her word, and they stayed forever, and I took care of them. So if I would have fired that girl, that wouldn't have happened. And here's Christine getting back in the broken down van and having to clean that day because I wasn't cleaning anymore, right? And so I called my friend Hillary in Chicago, who me and her both were young, and we were cleaning back in the day. I'm like, Hillary, I have to clean today. Like, this is what happened. Like we had to move clients. It was such a mess. So
Wow.
hire slow, fire fast, build an amazing team of A players, have fun, give them freedom. Even the pay, I wouldn't say I pay above average at all. I'd say I pay competitive kind of against everybody else, just to keep the margins great. I think in turn, if you're just helping, the last thing I'll mention, and again, people can reach out to me on LinkedIn if they want this form. The founder of Domino's Pizza and created this thing called JPRs, job performance and reviews.
Hmm.
And it has their goal, and he would do them quarterly or annually. I'm trying to remember. And there's a book that goes with it, but I got the form years ago, and I've done this for years in all my companies. And now we change it to DLPs, which is dream life planning. I think it sounds better.
Yes, it does.
So DLPs, so it's asking if they have any frustrations or confusion on the job. What are their long-term goals? And I want to see personal and professional. They keep doing professional. Like we just did them. We're doing them right now. We do them quarterly. And yeah, I was like, wait a minute. Like, I don't see anything personal. Like, let's push them to advance. And even on an interview, I tell them, hey, I know you're not going to work here forever. Like, what is your goal? And I want to help you get there. And obviously it's something, and they're shocked, and I genuinely will get them there, right? So, and then they stay forever. That's what's ironic. I think because they know I genuinely care about their future, so they usually stay anyways.
Yeah, retention goes a long ways if it's done right. So I do have a few business owners that do really struggle with this. They've tried multiple things. You may or may not have a tip for them, but the ones that they can't even find the A players, like they might be in a let's say they're in a restoration company, kind of a grunt, nasty, dirty job, and they're having troubles. How did you find, and cleaning, that's why I brought this question up, was cleaning's the same way. I mean, cleaning a toilet, they're not all clean when you get in the bathroom. So how do you find those A players that want to work with you doing what you're doing?
The best for sure would be a referral from a current employee. That
Okay.
is the best by far. Offer them iPod. You could do cash, but cash isn't as exciting because they'll usually use it on bills or something
Yeah.
boring. So like give them whatever, yeah, an iPad or whatever you think would be cool. Home Depot gift card. I don't know,
Yeah.
for
No,
the
that's a great idea.
contractors.
Yeah. Make it
You
more
know,
personal.
yeah, like a genuinely like cool referral gift, and promote that to them, and they're going to refer some killer people because, and again, they need to be happy. So they're happy, then they start telling their friends, "Oh, I love my job and this and that." And then their friends are like, "Well, I want to work there."
Yeah.
Or, they start convincing, they're not ever going to bring somebody that's a crap employee because they're going to have to work with them.
Exactly.
So they bring, I would say by far, those are number one. You could go next level. If that doesn't work as well, go to your customers. Same thing, offer them something cool. Because I know the hiring, I know it's difficult, and especially in construction, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, where else can you find? I'm trying to think, like, where else did I find that? That was the main way I found
No,
cleaners.
those are great tips right there. I do not want time to get away from us without you, because you've got so much knowledge and experience. I want to know what you do today. Like you mentioned, people can reach out to you on LinkedIn. Tell us a little bit about what you do today, how you can help people, and reaching out to you.
Yeah, so the Magnolia Firm I started 2 years ago. We help people with one of the biggest transactions of their life, which is exiting their company, which is
Wow.
so much fun. I did all my own transactions except the cleaning company because I didn't know how to sell a company. Then after that, I started doing all my own because I didn't want to pay a broker fee. And I loved selling my own companies. I would usually get way more money than they ever would have, like honestly. And so so then my girlfriends a couple of years ago said, "Hey, Christine, can you help me sell my company? I know you know how to do it." So then I was helping them as a consultant. And then, yeah, they're like, "You should do this for real." So I launched the firm. I brought on a business partner a year ago because I had a waiting list and it was just growing so quickly,
Yeah.
which I love scaling companies. Great team. And yeah, so I was doing the smaller deals because most people don't want to take them, and I have a lot of experience in them. But now we're way up market. But recently, I took another $200,000 exit. I took a couple of them because, again, I know I could sell them very quickly. One girl was going to give it to her employee. I'm like, I know I can get you 200,000. I got her 230 cash. That's happened a few times where they're about to
Wow.
shut it down, and I'm like, I know I can sell this in a couple weeks. I could get you this much. And then we just have a minimum success fee. But again, they would have shut it down anyway. So they
Exactly.
don't.
That's more than they would have got. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I do now, and I love every day of it. So I work with the sellers, we find great buyers, I handle the whole transaction from start to finish, negotiate the deal, everything.
Connecting with you on LinkedIn. You mentioned us several times. What is your link? How do you find you?
Yeah, my name's so rare. So it's Christine McDannell. I pop
Okay.
right up. And then my firm is obviously on YouTube and Instagram. It's the Magnolia Firm. That's easy to find. And then I dress up as an old man sometimes. I haven't done it in a while. And his name is Broker Bob, and I'm making fun of brokers. That's my alter ego. Even my closest friends didn't know it was me because I'm in like a costume and I have like an accent, old man accent. But so yeah,
That's
you can have
great.
fun, right?
Gotta have fun. Gotta have fun. So, with you being a business broker, what would you offer small business owners that aren't ready to exit yet, but let's say maybe 10, 20, 30 years they plan on exiting? What kind of important guidance would you give them, saying like you always need to be thinking this for maximum value for your company?
Great question. There's a couple things. Net profit, of course, because that's what the multiple's based on. Reputation would be number 2 for sure. Making sure you have an incredible reviews, because that's hard for a buyer to fix. Loyal team obviously is important. Any press you can get, media you can get. And again, I'm also thinking of like construction and service-based businesses. Those would be the big ones. There's all these little ancillary things, of course. But yeah, like a strong client list. Contracts are huge. If you can get signed contracts, like future contracts, recurring revenue is huge. Yeah, those are the biggies.
Anything on the business owner themselves? Because I know a lot of business owners, the business is not worth anything without that owner. Anything that they can be doing to make it worth more?
Yeah, if the business is wrapped around you, that's very difficult. It's not impossible, and we've done a bunch of them. It's just kind of, again, stripping yourself out of that. Are you doing all the sales? Are you doing all the biz dev? When you're gearing up to sell, you better find somebody to take that over from you. Especially in client relations. Do you have all the strong, vendor relationships? Can you bring somebody in to take those over? Take your name and your face all off the website. If the name of the company is your name, which I see a lot, that's difficult.
Yes.
So yeah, trying to, again, strip yourself out. Again, you could change the name of your business as soon as you can, take your name off of it. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that one up. That's probably the second biggest next to profit.
Oh, very, very good. So believe it or not, we are almost out of time. Any final words of wisdom for small business owners? You've been tremendous.
Thank you. It is so worth it. I can tell you how many, and again, I like how many spring breaks I missed and weekends and happy hours, and I didn't date for years. And in hindsight, the freedom I have, I travel the world. I can live in different countries for months at a time. I have so much freedom. I could do whatever I want with whomever I want, whenever I want. That was worth it all. There's not a single regret ever. Again, I don't have kids, so maybe, spend time with your kids, but
yeah, right.
I hear that regret a lot, that they didn't spend enough time with their kids.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing kind of that happening, they're regretting that. So that's the only exception, I'd say. But yeah, work. I know it's hard. I know you have those hard days. You can't make payroll, your lawsuit, whatever. I've been through it all.
Yeah.
It is so freaking worth it at that end, right?
But one thing you said at the very beginning that got you through was you had a plan. You had a plan of where you wanted to go. And I think that's so important to keep that mindset of, if I keep scrubbing this toilet, eventually I'm going to get here, then here. But if you don't have a plan, where are you going?
That's true. That's very true.
So, Christine, thank you so much. You've been a joy. Wish you the best of luck, continued success. And for listeners, please go follow Christine. She's got more advice for you to follow. Thanks again. Thank you for listening to Small Business Pivots. Don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast. If you need help growing your business, go to michaeldmorrison.com. If you have a guest or topic suggestion for our upcoming podcast, email me at michaeldmorrison.com. We'll see you next time on Small Business Pivots.